Hey, welcome back to Rollin with Olan. I'm Jeff Olan, your host. This podcast is sponsored by Source and Cast, a background and actors platform. You could go to sourceandcast.com. Check them out. Please do. They're in New York, they're in Atlanta, they're in Los Angeles, and many other areas. Sourceandcast.com. My guest today is casting director Bill Marinella. Decades in the industry. I have known him for a long time, and recently we ran into each other at the Sundance Film Festival, reconnected. And
Hmm.
Bill, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me. It's been a long time. It's so nice to see you.
Yeah, it's great to see you too, man.
Go ahead, Larry.
It really is, and we always have great conversations, and I'm sure this will be a good one because I want to help people as much as possible, and you do that every day with what you do. But I want to start out a little bit with your childhood. You grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, former mid. I mean, I'm also a former Midwesterner, or I guess I should say I'm a Midwesterner
Hmm.
with Indiana. Um, what were your childhood dreams?
When I was a boy, um, I always wanted to be in entertainment, watching TV and movies. I didn't have a lot of like a lot of people in the arts. When we're younger, we don't have maybe necessarily a lot of friends, and then when we do learn how to socialize and make friends, you want to be the class clown,
Yeah.
or you're for their amusement, right? So I was good at getting people to laugh, and I realized that at an early age. And so I originally, when I was younger, when I started in my teens, I had wanted to be a stuntman
Hmm.
because I thought what they did was so cool. And they catch themselves on fire, they light themselves on
Yeah.
fire,
Yeah.
and they roll around. Because I used to watch those behind the scenes every now and again back in my day. They would have a behind the scenes newsreel that you'd watch at the theater, or outtakes,
Yeah.
and a lot of the Burt Reynolds movies, the Smokey and the Bandit, Cannonball
Cannonball
Run. When I
Run.
was a
Yeah.
teen,
Hmm.
they would always have outtakes at the end of the credits. The credits would roll, and they would still be talking and showing a little. So that's how they got people to watch credits. But it's also a way to show the outtakes. And I always thought about that. I wanted to be a stuntman. And so then, I would roam around my neighborhood, jumping off roofs, into trash cans, and just, hurting myself, breaking my elbow, almost breaking my neck, and just, bicycles, riding my bike and jumping over ramps. And the same thing in the snow. We get the plastic toboggans. We go down what was called Kings Hill in Cleveland, Ohio, near 49th Street, and the Lake Shore Boulevard is where the cars would come by. And of course, it's snowing, and we would have to literally flip ourselves out of the toboggan, or we would go into the freeway, because this is just a hill. There's
Yeah.
no
Yeah.
barriers. There's nothing.
Yeah.
So we would get, and sometimes the toboggans would go flying over the cars, and unfortunately, a few times they went into the cars. Luckily, no accidents were caused. But that was my upbringing in a middle class, blue collar neighborhood in Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You talk about, like the people that grow up in like in California, whatever, they have no clue. We did the same thing. We would go
Hmm.
to the freeways, the overpasses, and we would sled down, toboggan
Yeah,
down, or even on a piece of cardboard. And you had the freeway right there, as you know, or the
yeah,
highway, which is called in the Midwest. And nowadays I don't think they do it anymore. And if they do, it's a lot different. They've got the walls, the barrier walls, and all that.
yeah.
Yeah, that
There were
was.
no
I mean, we took a
barriers.
lot of chances back then.
We really did, yeah.
But it
And we
was fun
still
time.
survived.
Yeah, we survived, and it was a great place to grow up in the Midwest. Now, so it's interesting, and you also say class clown. I was the same thing, So I think those of us in that get into this industry, a lot of us are class clowns, or at least we think we are. Tell me about being an extra at, was it 14 or 16 years old?
Yeah, so I went to the Cleveland School of the Performing Arts. We had what we called forced busing or forced segregation, and that was in the 70s, right? Yeah, 70, 79, something like
You're dating
77,
yourself,
something,
Bill.
76. What's that?
You're dating
Yeah, I'm
yourself.
dating myself. 76. So at the time, I would have to get up to go to my school, which used to be around the corner. I would have to get up before my dad, who went to work. He was an electrician, worked at a nuclear plant. And I would have to get up before him and be on the bus before he even got out of bed. And I'm 14, 15 years old. My parents said, enough's enough. This is crazy. And the bus ride was like 2 hours each way,
Yeah.
spending 90 minutes each
Jeez.
day with all the stops. Crazy. So I went to stay with my aunt in New Jersey. And then this magnet school came about, and I applied and I got into the Cleveland School of the Arts. I could have went to the School of Science, the School of Math, or the School of Aviation. And I chose the Cleveland School of the Arts. And that was a school where they would have, you'd have your regular classes, but then you have for 3 hours a day, filmmaking, acting, dance, music, drama. And so my electives were filmmaking and acting. And so one of the assignments was they were shooting a movie called A Christmas Story, Bob Clark's A Christmas Story. And we went down to downtown into Cleveland, and it was very cold. And we were all out there at night watching them. When I say we were all, it was a whole class. And then I came back to be an extra. So I snuck in a movie scene as an extra, never got paid. And I was in 2 scenes. And, the one scene is in the big famous where they're in the Higbee's store, and Santa kicks the boot on Peter, what's his name? I can't remember his name at the time. And so he slides down the slide. And I always say that I see myself, but it's probably not me. It's a sea of people. I might be able to see the back of my head, but that got me the acting bug, and then I wanted to learn about cameras. And so I started taking filmmaking classes, making Super 8 movies. So we made Super 8 movies that were in black and white. So the school provided that. And so I started learning that. And the schools didn't have any money for this kind of stuff, even though we're a magnet school. So we would take our black and white film and we would dye it in pans of Kool-Aid.
Oh.
So we get lime green Kool-Aid, we would get cherry Kool-Aid, we get lemonade. And so we would soak the film after it was developed. We would soak the film overnight, and we had to edit it so that we could get some type of effect. Like if you wanted a bright sunny day, it was at the lemonade. If you wanted something interesting, it would be the green lime Kool-Aid. Yeah. And then of course, cherry, it was what we used for the blood scenes. Like if I wanted something to look really, that, because I made a movie called The Creeper about a guy who just crept around and stabbed people. I had no writing experience. It absolutely meant nothing. But I would go to movies like Phantasm and the first Halloween. And so I would see these and I said, okay, let me make a movie about killers. And I just want to kill people. So I put a hood on and, robe and killed my friends in this movie, Super 8. And I won the award at my school. Wow. We weren't competing with anybody except each other. And so, I edited it myself and I didn't know what the hell I was doing.
Yeah.
But we had to manually edit with a pair of scissors and Scotch tape.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And we
slice it, really slicing and dicing.
And we would be holding the film up like this to the light.
Yeah.
Trying to figure out where to cut it and splice it. But that's how I learned. And so that was my foray into that. But then in 1984, Columbus, Ohio, they were filming a movie called Teachers. Mm-hmm. And the movie Teachers starred Nick Nolte, Ralph Macchio, and this will be something later, Ralph Macchio and Joe Beth Williams and William Shallert and a bunch of old, really interesting actors. I didn't know who the hell they were at the time.
Yeah.
So we all went down, 50 of us on a school bus. The school paid for us to go to audition for Arthur Hiller. Had no clue who Arthur Hiller was.
Oh, yeah. If you don't, check it out. Yeah.
Yeah. So Arthur Hiller picked me and a handful of other students to be actors in the movie. And of course, I'm a real minor at this point. I'm 17, 16 years old. And so I was supposed to have someone stay with me. So I made a really bad choice. And I got one of my friends to stay with me because he was 18, but he was still in school because, he had flunked. Like a lot of kids back then, they were held back.
Yeah.
So he and I were roommates for a while. He would go out carousing and I would try to get into these bars. And I did get into a couple bars at 17. And the movie starred Nick Nolte and it was really cool. And I played a character named Paller. And Ralph Macchio and Crispin Glover were my nemesis.
Wow.
I was another bad guy. I was like a tough kid. I had on the boots that I had and on the gloves that I had hate on one hand and kill on the other. Hate and kill. Meet, hate, and kill. And that was my character. And so I learned about acting from that. I wasn't even really acting. I was myself. Yeah. I was an asshole. I was a little bit of a punk. So I started from there wanting to take acting more seriously. And then Michael J. Fox and Paul Schrader, I was hired by Paul Schrader to portray a guy in the film. It was called The Light of Day with Joan Jett and Michael J. Fox. Mm-hmm. Did that movie. did some commercials, some local commercials as an actor, still in my late teens, and had an agency and picked me up and did commercial and print work and things like that.
And this was all in Cleveland?
This is all in Cleveland, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Great. Well, I just want to, back up for a second. The thing you just told me about the Kool-Aid and the coloring and what you did,
Oh, yeah.
never heard that before. I mean, it's pretty, really creative. And, I applaud you for that because that's something else. I mean, nowadays,
So,
obviously there's so many different ways of doing it. But back then,
yeah.
my God, that was really clever of you, So,
yeah, it was interesting.
So when did you then, so you did all that, you went off to, do other things, I'm sure. But you, at some point in time, you came out to Los Angeles.
Yes.
When was that?
I came out to Los Angeles in 2000. I'm sorry, not 2000. Probably
1800?
Yeah, 1836. It took me a while, horse and buggy. That's when I left.
Yeah.
Wagon wheel. No, I was like in the, gosh, I can't let me think.
Bottom line is you came out to LA, and I'm just,
1997.
Right. So you came out to LA. Did you come out to LA to act, Bill? Or
yes.
Yeah, you did.
Sorry, yes.
Because I remember you, and I don't want to say for sure, but I remember because in the early days, you were, I was running you through the agency. Yeah, I just remember you. And it's funny because over the years now and how successful you've been as a casting director, which we're going to get all into, but it's really amazing that that you started as an actor prior to getting into casting. Talk about those early days.
Yeah, the early days in Los Angeles, I lived off Franklin and Grace Avenue in heart of Hollywood. 90028 was my zip code. So I had the studio apartment, which was a room and a bathroom, one giant room and a bathroom, and a hot plate and a small fridge. That's how small they were back then. And so I started going on auditions. Like many people, back then we crashed auditions. You would just get in line, and sometimes they'd say, "Who are you with?" And sometimes they're too busy. And when I would go into the audition, it was usually for commercials with a group of people. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know, like 14 or 15 people in a room, and you'd hold up a little number, it's like number 12, and the next guy's number 13, but you're all in a room together, and you'd say the lines or whatever. And it was absolutely terrifying to me because I'd never gone on an audition. I auditioned for directors, never for casting directors, because Cleveland's a small market. I would just get the part. So I started auditioning, and then I tried to get an agent to represent me rather than just, the agents that I sent my pictures to. Sometimes they call, sometimes not. So I started going on interviews for these agencies, and a lot of them were scams. Give me $300. Here's my headshot photographer. It was like in the thousands of dollars. And then I said, well, I'm already SAG because I did these movies. So at the time, the Screen Extras Guild had just merged, I think the year before with, or maybe it was a few years before, with the Screen Actors Guild. And I started making a living doing extra work, core extra work, stand-in and stuff. And so I went to Bill Dance's office, and I started interning there. And I met a lot of people. We had mutual friends, like Sandy started there, Terrence Harris started there, Lisa Latito. We all started, I think, at Bill Dance. And so I started doing the casting there. But before that, I tried my hand at acting, and I just thought, there's too many people that resemble me and I resemble them, and they're much more qualified. And I did take acting classes. It was a lot to remember. It was a lot to do, and I just didn't feel like it was for me. So I started not working as an actor and started doing extra work. And during the course of that extra work, I found a way into the casting arena of, learning how things work. And I was horrible at it at first.
Well, look, it's pretty remarkable that, you were horrible at first, but now, what you're doing. But also it's, it goes to show you because, I also came out as an actor. You came out as an actor, and, there's a lot of people who started as actors who have gotten into casting or anything else. You try to, you figure it out along the way, and you say, okay, well, maybe I do something else. And, we're so glad that you have, Bill. So you were working for Bill Dance. And I was going to ask you that, who else you worked for. And then when did you decide that you were going to go off and become Bill Marinella casting? Was that a lot later, or what happened?
Yeah, so that was like a decade later. That was like in 2000 or maybe 15 or 20 years later. It was because I came out there, I think in 1989 or 1990. And by the time 1998 had rolled around, uh, I had heard that Louisiana was the next Hollywood because they opened up the tax credits there. People were going there. And I got in my car and drove to Louisiana. And I got there. And then there was the pseudo strike when Alan, I forgot his name, who was the president of the Screen Actors Guild of actor, Alan something.
Alan Ruckin,
Alan Rosenwig or Alan
Rifkin.
Rosenkrantz.
Yeah, sorry, Alan.
Yeah.
I met you once.
Yeah. He was, but there was thought of a pseudo strike, right? So I landed in Baton Rouge and I met a producer there that I knew from LA because in LA, I had done a certain amount of casting on the show called, oh boy.
Oh boy, that was a good show. Oh boy,
a
and
story
oh girl.
about Bob Crane. A story about Bob Crane, and I can't remember the name.
Story about Bob Crane. Well, it wasn't Hogan's Heroes. We know that much.
No, it wasn't Hogan's Heroes. It was, gosh darn
But
it. I'm looking at my resume now.
yeah, now he's.
But it was directed by Paul Schrader, though.
Oh, okay. I should have that, but
Autofocus. Autofocus was the name. It was directed by Paul Schrader, Bob Crane. So the key to getting to Louisiana will come in a second. So I had started doing extras casting with Bill and everybody else and just kind of doing my own thing. And I did a movie called Autofocus. And at the time, I had also worked for Playboy TV. And I would do things for like the Skinemax type movies, where everybody wears a G-string or something and, touchy-feely or whatnot. Yeah. And so then I went ahead and created a little niche for myself because the people from like TV movies, they needed a body double of a person in a shower. You can't see them, but they wanted to shoot through the glass and the camera pans in, it's all fogged up, things like that. So I went ahead and started making a little money doing that because I had my people at Playboy. I would find people's bodies for actors. So I would cast maybe the body doubles for different movies. So I did this thing for Autofocus, which actually was Sandy Alisi's movie. And I met this woman, Alicia Elaine, who was a producer. And I had this conversation with her. And Paul hired me to be in the movie as the process server that serves Bob Crane. But I was also hired to cast all the naked people in the movie Autofocus about Bob Crane, who was a secret swinger. He was that was the story because he was murdered by John something or other, played by Willem Dafoe. And so those kind of castings were very unique. And I started getting a name and people, because I have Playboy, people would call me to do all these very unique castings. And so I eventually left LA after doing lots of this stuff for 10 years. I left LA and moved to Baton Rouge. And then that pseudo strike happened. And then that's where Alicia Lane was from. So she had moved back to Alicia Lane, the producer that hired me. She moved back to New Orleans. So we met in New Orleans and we opened a company called Acme Casting. And the tax credits had just started in New Orleans. And because of the pseudo strike, there was threats of going on strike. And I guess what the studios were doing was they weren't moving yet. They weren't going to do any films. They stayed in California. It was like that for like a year. Yeah. And so I did not have the ability to stick around. And then I got an offer to go to Georgia. And I did Drop Dead Diva. And that's why Georgia, right. So the Atlanta area is where I went right after living in Baton Rouge for just under a year.
Yeah, I wanted to bring that up to you because you do travel around all over the coast and you do what you do, and we got a lot to cover here. But you follow the tax credits, right? You did that for a long time.
Yeah.
You still do it, right? But wasn't there a time when you picked up and you went out to Iowa and you had your offices set up, everything was great, everything was on the wall, and then the Iowa production. Due to, I guess, not getting tax breaks and what have you, just kind of crashed and burned. You
fraud.
Want to explain
fraud. That? So in 2008, there was a tax credit in Iowa, 50% off filmmaking, but there was no oversight. It was one of the first of its kind, 50% off. One man, he ran the entire film commission, was taxed with, stamp of approval. He did as much as he could,
Yeah.
and really it wasn't well defined. So to make a long story short, that's right. I'm glad you reminded because I forgot I did like 5 movies in Iowa. So I moved in Iowa, 2008 to 2009. Then that's when I went to New Orleans. Okay, there we go. Or not to New Orleans, to Baton Rouge. So I did like 4 or 5 movies out there, horror movies. I did The Experiment with Adrian Brody. Lots of other different actors in these different movies. And it was weird because you would see like some soap opera star sitting in a car being driven somewhere. And I'm like, where am I? I'm in Des Moines, Iowa. I'm in Iowa. And there's actors that I recognize, and so just very famous people.
Yeah.
And they made movies there, 50% tax credit. But then what happened was they did an audit and people were scamming. And what they did was they crossed the border from North Dakota. They opened up a pass-through company, but they were actually, one man opened up a studio by putting a camera in his silo over his farm. And he made a documentary, supposedly, got hundreds of thousands of dollars in tax credits, and just did what he wanted with the money. And 4 years later, he was in prison because it took a long time to go through. But they shut us down basically within probably 11 months, 12 months. And it was real challenging to accept that too, because I put so much faith in it.
Yeah.
And I actually was interviewed by one of those news programs, like a 2020 or something, about the Iowa tax credits. It's on my website. And I was like, it just made me feel like I was like, wow, I came all this way. I'm doing principal casting now, and I'm casting extras.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it went to heck. But so I followed the tax credit circus, and my next stop was New Orleans. And then there was some talk of a strike. So a lot of people didn't come to make the movies they thought they were going to make. So from there, I went to Georgia to do a project called Drop Dead Diva for Mark Tobey and Bob Wilson.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, look, you're, following the tax credits. That was very smart of you. And you could do that because you were more freelance and, what have you.
Yeah.
I had the company out here, and I was just, I was busy, thank goodness, for many, many years. Let me just tell the audience a little bit more about Bill. You've cast for some really great TV shows along the way, and I'm going to just rattle off a couple. Then we'll just get into some other things.
Sure.
But you did some great TV shows, The Fear of the Walking Dead, American Crime Story, Ballers, and Cobra Kai.
Yes.
That was, tell us a little bit about that. Cobra Kai, I mean, it's iconic.
Yeah. So the first 2 seasons of Cobra Kai, I had the pleasure of working on with Bob Wilson. Bob Wilson did Drop Dead Diva. And Bob Wilson was a producer. He'd done many shows out in LA, but he had made the move to Atlanta. And Cobra Kai. And so I had worked as an actor with Ralph Macchio in a movie called Teachers, because I was I was his nemesis. He was mine. And then when Cobra Kai started, I reintroduced myself to him, and he didn't remember me, but he was polite. And then he remembered the situation, but not necessarily me. And so, Cobra Kai was a great show, and it was really challenging because getting those people at the tournaments and things like that, it was $64 for 8 hours, Jeff.
Right.
$64
I remember those days.
and you would get up at 4 in the morning to be there at 5 to fill the tent with 300 people for the tournaments, And so, but it was a lot of fun, and it took off like crazy. And that's where I met the producers of American Reunion. And so I did a couple of those shows with them. A couple shows for those guys. And so, but I've had a really nice career, and I'm very, very blessed, but the travel and all the intensity of what, is entailed with attention to detail, the hours, it's just crazy. And
I wanted to get into that, but before, you've also worked with some iconic directors, Clint Eastwood on Juror 2, Ava DuVernay on Origin, Tyler Perry on Jasmine's Blue, Patty Jenkins on Wonder Woman 1984, Michael Bay, Pain and Gain, and someone who I had the pleasure of working with, Tim Story. You did Ride Along 2 with him. I worked with Tim on Taxi back.
Oh, wow.
in the day. Yeah.
Wow,
Queen Latifah.
cool.
But so, and that's the thing, we all work with, various people and the same people along the way with what we do. And, of course you're doing it, out of LA for the most part. Go back if you would, because, the audience knows from maybe a little bit me talking on various episodes and other guests that I've had on, but talk about the hours of casting directors that do what we do. Bill, would you please talk about those hours that you
Uh,
just mentioned?
sure. So, you've got first unit and you've got second unit when you do a TV series, and then you have one episode you're filming, and then you start prepping the episode. While you're not even through with the first episode, you're prepping episode two, and we're in the office and we've got to pull cards. Now, back in the day, we would have to pull index cards with Polaroids on them. Now everything is digital, which definitely helps. But we would have to pull cards, lay them out on the floor, get the picture of the actor, figure out what is the scene, and we'd lay them out to say, okay, I want to show this guy, this guy, this guy. And, then you have to put the cards back. It takes hours. I'm not kidding, like 17, 18 hours a day, no shit, no joke, like 18 hours a day. And then you type up the skins. The skins are all the names of all the people that work on the show. Like you've got your header, like this guy's the referee, this guy's the football coach, these are the fans. So they're skins. Every skin has multiple categories, call times. And so you've got to confirm all those people, and you have to wait for them to call you back on their time. So we're always on our phones, even when we're driving home, even at home, sitting with family, sitting with friends. You got to keep that phone there. It's 17, 18 hours sometimes, and very rarely would it be 12 hours. But I was lucky when it was 12 hours. Even if you had an assistant, even if you had a person to help, it's just a lot of hard work and many, many hours, little sleep, lots of coffee. And I kind of cut my teeth on that. And before I started the casting, of course, I was on a movie set and I would be the coordinator. I'd learn how to check extras in, and I would help. So like a PA, but for the company rather than a PA for the production company, a PA for the casting company. Check people in, make sure before they get to wardrobe that they brought the right stuff. But if they didn't, you put them at the back of the line so you could to make sure that the wardrobe people and the costume people wouldn't get mad at you for the first 5 people that show up. You put those 5 people, you shove them in the back, because then you got 100 people that look great and the 5 people that didn't, but it didn't matter because they were. So because that's one of the tricks I learned after a while. People always say they've got the things to bring when we ask them to bring certain wardrobe.
Yeah.
And then maybe they just show up with one shirt and not enough to change. So that's one of the things that casting extras you have to look out for. But yeah, the hours, Jeff, the fittings, the skins, multiple units, second unit, first unit, night unit, water unit,
Right.
aerial unit.
Yeah.
It's like 6 call sheets sometimes for 1 week of worth of work or per day. Like it's crazy.
It's crazy. And that's why, I've told people for years I've been married, married to the business. I mean, things are changing now, but still, we still work long hours when we're doing productions. And if you're doing multiple productions at the same time, but, so look, I'm going to go through a whole list of things that I want to find out from you. And if you could give kind of, we'll do a little bit of a rapid because of time, but
sure,
you could just answer some things, with the best answer that you can, because I want to, look, Bill, you have been out there, the deal, you especially know it on the road, and people all over the country and all over the world who want to get into this industry, or people who are in it. How do you find talent going into a new city?
Well, I like to do an in-person casting call. And before I do that, because of social media, we do our Facebook posts and ask people to share. You make a lot of phone calls to different various organizations and groups. Sometimes you make a donation. And sometimes you get a free space, like the city will give you a space. Like in Iowa, they were so excited to have the people there, the Film Commission. They got me a space, and I took pictures of everybody on a little SD card, and they would show up in line, and I would say, fill this form out. And the form filling was the longest thing. So what I started doing now was you get a little whiteboard, 8x10 whiteboard. Like if you go to jail for the mugshot, and you get the black magic marker, so they write. Yeah. So I get all that information, and then I'd have somebody type it in. And so different various databases over the years, but I started with just Gmail. But anyway, that's how we find the people. We go radio ads, try to talk to the morning show and on radio too, because you're stuck in your car and you're in Atlanta, and while you're waiting to go through the next light, you're jammed in traffic. You see all these white trucks and orange cones, and you're stuck. You're going, what's this? Oh, these are the movies that I heard about. So I started doing radio, and they would invite me down to talk on the radio, and we would call it the Hollywood Minute, or the casting couch,
Yeah.
And for 2 minutes, I would talk about the show and say, hey, if you want to be in the movies, here's what you do. You got to do this and email me a snapshot, you know. And so that's how we would find people. And I really enjoyed that. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah,
That was a lot of fun.
street casting is
Street
interesting when we're
casting, yeah.
right, right.
Yeah.
Can you talk about real quick the union versus non-union for talent around the country?
Sure. So from what I know, and things aren't looking to change, California has a zone. New York City has a zone for feature films. It's for feature films. It's like 85 people a day have to be Screen Actors Guild either members or they have to be on what's called a voucher. The non-union, I think, is going to be a different wage, which usually is about 140 or 150 for 8 in California and New York. New York, I think, is a little bit higher. And in LA, of course, it's like 218, I think, for 8 hours. And with the union, you get your union benefits such as meal penalties and things like that. But you know, if you work 10 hours, you get double time at 11 and 12. And non-union, you get just time and a half at 10,
Right.
10, 9, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference financially, but it's still an opportunity for people. So people always want to get that SAG voucher. So that's feature films. Commercials, there is a zone in Chicago. There is a zone in Miami. And there is a zone, I think, in one other city besides New York and LA. So that means the first 30 of those extras have to be SAG or on a SAG waiver. And so non-union films, you know, it's a crapshoot around here because, like I said, in Georgia, which is a right to work state, you don't even have to pay them time and a half. You could pay them straight time. Some of the projects I did, I won't name names, but the studios were very tight with their money. And you thought they were going to get time and a half, and turns out the paychecks were only straight 12. So that was disappointing and challenging, and people would be upset naturally. But you know, it's really interesting the wages that get paid. It's always fluctuating and always changing.
Yeah, and it's different in every city.
Yeah.
You know, and somebody who is non-union and they want to get into the union, what's the best way?
You know, the best way is hopefully you'll get a speaking line, but that doesn't really happen too much because when you want actors to be in a show, you might get an upgrade. And I think somebody is working on Nashville 911. Her name is Jenny, and she gets a lot of extras in Nashville, and they all get upgraded. And I think that's because maybe the producers don't want to fly actors in.
Yeah.
So it's easier to just Taft-Hartley an extra up to a day player role. It's like a $900 payday for them, you know, or $1,000 payday to say the one line. And that's what I hear is happening, but I haven't seen it myself, but I have heard about that.
Yeah.
So the other way was to get vouchers. Remember, you had to get vouchers.
That's
You had
right.
to get free SAG vouchers. In order for you to get the SAG voucher, it had to be a picture selection that you were so unique, you could take a spot from a SAG actor.
That's right.
Or if somebody didn't show up, they had to give away 2 union vouchers, and maybe you would get that voucher.
Right.
It's a little bit complicated.
Be patient. Basically, be
Yeah,
patient.
it's
It
a
can
little bit
happen.
complicated.
You know, you talk about pictures. How important are updated photos for extras and actors in general? But you know, especially those starting out.
Yeah. I think that one of the things that really frustrated a lot of us, remember when Facetune came out on Instagram, like, what was it, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, whatever? People started using this cool feature to make themselves look smoother, no wrinkles. And maybe they just had a unique look. And then you look at them in person and you're like, is this your brother? Who is this? Like, who is this you 10 years ago?
Right.
And what was happening was people were just doing it because it was fun. And then they would try to touch up it's just like a headshot. Remember back in the day, you get a headshot and they would spray the headshot. You know, don't do that. We need real pictures of you, right? They should be updated about every 3 months, so 4 times a year. And for men, if you have a beard, you've got to, and you shave it completely, update it, because everything's electronic now. So update that in the database so we know it's the most current version. And I don't need to see a picture of you with an actor because that's a picture you like. I don't care if you like the picture. What I care about is the producer and director I show it to is what does it really look like you? If you have a mole or something under your eye or a birthmark up here and you don't like it, we can cover that with makeup if someone chooses to. Don't worry about it. But we need to get the real you. Like accurate photographs showing the length and color of your hair are very important.
Yeah, but I want to say something. You know, we can cover it. You know, makeup can cover it, but in a lot of times, production loves that because it's a character, right? They love that
they
look.
like
So
that.
don't ever think, you know, that no matter what you look like, there's something for everybody out there.
Right. And that's a good point, Jeff. Thank you for pointing that out because a lot of people don't know that right now, the way they're making projects, unless it's ultra specific, like they want real humans to interact with actors who are also real humans. we want to see the cracks and crevices of your face.
Yes.
We want to
Yes.
see, yeah, we want to see that,
That's it.
that thing on your nose, the thing on your chin. We want to see it.
We want to see it all. So, Bill,
Yeah.
how does somebody stay on your radar without being a nuisance?
Follow us along on social media postings. And I will say, hey, we've got this going on, and here's what to look out for. We don't use it, the database that I have. I don't really use an email anymore. It's just we put our roles out when we need to put them out, and then people submit. And a lot of times, though, people do stay in touch with us through Facebook. When we also use social media. So we have a database that goes out to people that are in our database. Then social media goes out to everybody, whether you're in our database or not. People respond to those in the comments section. But it is a little frustrating, and it's not the end of the world, but just it's a little pet peeve. But like, I can't tell you why you didn't get picked. And yes, I know you worked on this show last year, but I can't tell you the reasons why we may not have you back this year. Maybe they seen you too much, or maybe that storyline is done. The demands of what they ask of us are pretty intense.
Yeah, and we also have to, people have to remember that it's, even though Bill does this and I do it, we cast. There's a lot of other people that are making decisions. There's directors and producers and assistant directors. Yeah. Sometimes the wardrobe people get involved, and they'll make decisions on why
hair department.
Yeah, the hair department, absolutely. Like with me, if they wanted someone with hair, they don't have it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of different departments out there that we work with, right, Bill? A lot of different departments that we work with to get that. So in your experience, what do the actors who actually build a lasting career do differently, do you believe?
Well, I think that patience is the number one thing. Having an understanding of all the anxieties that go along with it. You just have to throw it to the universe and let it be. Go take another job until we call you. If we do call you in for a callback, there's nothing you can do. Go home and do the dishes, because I can't do anything for you. It's out of my hands. That's what our job is. We bring you on tape. We say, these are your choices. Here's who I like. Here's who the director likes, and here's who the producer likes. You guys should do everything, whatever you need. I say to the network or the producers, because I've cast many principal roles, and it's just the same. You can't even get into the network unless you're registered with unless you have an actual agent. But then a lot of the times, some of the feature films, it's easier for an actor or even an extra. But the picture selections are very important. And the best thing I could do is tell everybody to just figure out a way to keep yourself busy and keep the mind busy with other things. Don't worry about it, because you did the best you can, and that's all it is. You didn't do anything wrong. You just didn't get selected. Yeah.
So what do you look out for with submissions that actually get your attention?
Well, when I'm putting a submission out for a particular look, say it's a period film, and I'm looking for redheads, and I say natural redhead, and then people will send in photos with their hair dyed. It's not natural, but I could consider it, right? Because we know you can dye your hair. That's great. But I want to see the natural redhead that also has pale skin. And so if you follow the directions for what we're asking and make it make sense. When I used to do period films in Savannah, Georgia, I did a film called Devotion, set in the Korean War. And I said all the men should come in a wife beater T-shirt, and the ladies can come in like a frilly blouse. And people showed up in their polka dot blouses and their suspenders and T-shirts. And all I did was take a simple picture, and it made the difference.
Yeah.
And I would pose them in front of a white background, and I would take the picture myself personally with my camera phone, of all things. And I would take more pictures than I need, and I would upload what I wanted to make the picture package. So I think that the pictures that stand out are the ones that pay attention.
Yeah.
And ladies would curl their hair before they sent in the picture. Instead of just saying, hey, I can send you another one later when I get home and I'll curl my hair, because they may not have time to do it. So when you send the photo in, try to follow those instructions for the submission and be available for the dates.
Yeah, and that also goes with, when a casting director is asking for photos, don't take all day or until the next day to get it to them, right? Get it to them ASAP.
Right. Have them already in your phone. Like, have a series of, like, the phone pictures you can keep in your phone for 2 or 3 months. You'll pretty much look the same, right? So have a selection of, hairstyles and different shirts, so that when they're there, you could go through your role and say, okay, this is what I look like now. You know,
Right.
I that's always a good idea.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea because we work under timelines, and if a director's asking for something and we're reaching out to talent, right, Bill?
Yeah,
That you got to get that to us. Don't think that, oh, I didn't do my hair or I didn't do this. Like Bill says,
right.
make sure you have it ready. It's better to have it ready in your phone where you could send it. Can we go back to your database for a second? So
Sure.
do you in your database, is it like a coast to coast database? Is it something that, like, when you go into a
Yeah,
certain city, then people get
sure.
into the database that way?
Yeah. So I have a database, and you could pick different cities and different states that you could just create a profile. Then when I get to that city or state, I will see who's in that area within 100 or 200 miles.
Hmm.
And so that's how I get people in the database too, because it's a database not for just one city. It's completely for the whole United States.
That's great. That's great. That's great.
Yeah.
Have you noticed a shift in what directors and producers are prioritizing nowadays in, like, uh, with actors over the last few years? Have you noticed any shift? Because, since we came out of the pandemic and what have you, a lot has changed in the industry. Are you
Yeah, I
seeing
mean,
anything
there's been
different?
so many different changes with. I think that they're going to. They don't make TV series, which is now streaming, like they used to. Yes, it's a smaller screen, and you see everything's almost a blur, right? So, and there's only a few people that are very specific. You see colors and hats and bodies walking by, and what they wipe like this, they wipe, and then it's the next person, and so they. I don't feel like they're using as many background actors as they used to
Hmm. No.
with most projects. And horror movies and horror themed and suspense, they're all coming back because those can be shot in isolation, right? They can be shot at night, they can be shot in isolation. And that in itself is a natural way to drop down what they need from actors and background actors. Some movies only have 9 characters, but Sinners, as an example, that was a big budget production. What a great film, right? It was a lot of fun. But if we try to do Sinners for streaming, maybe you'd only have a few scenes in that whole episode that have big background days or big actor days. And that's the shift that I've seen since the pandemic. Is it's just kind of shifted to less is better for the producers, not necessarily for the showrunner, but the studios seem to want to cut back on that. It's very unfortunate.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think they because actors bring so much energy to the scene.
Yeah. Yeah. How does working on location change your approach to casting from learning in LA to now working on location all over the place because it's so different?
Yeah, so oddly enough, it's either going to be enthusiastic people that show up for these open calls, right? Or that want to be in the database with their kids, with everything else. Or sometimes people, they don't want to do it because they've got so much going on in their life, or they've got a job, and they don't think that, or they don't understand that anybody can do this, right?
Yeah.
Anybody can, because pretty much when you do background acting, you can, right? Until
Yeah.
you learn. So it's a little bit of both, but I do think that in general, most people are very excited. I'm in Kentucky right now, and we have the Kentucky Derby coming up. And last year when I got here, we had the Kentucky Derby, and I got a bunch of people for a Kentucky Derby scene, and they've all been to the Kentucky Derby. They've been in the boxes, they've been in the stands, they've cheered on the horses, they wear the hats. So there's a different amount of enthusiasm in different states versus what you might see in LA. In LA, everybody wants to be an actor. And when they first get out there, they're very excited about what they see, and they get jaded very quickly. It's expensive. You could park your car and get it towed, and it costs you like 3 days worth
An
of
arm
work
and
to
a
get it
leg.
out,
Yeah.
right? Now here, you might get a parking ticket, you don't get towed. And so, but people are more apt and friendly when you go to different states. I see a bit more energy.
Yeah. I'm packing my bags for Lexington. Uh, talk to the parents who are listening about kids in your area and working kids, and really
Sure.
around the country.
So the thing that parents should do for kids is to make sure that you manage their every email and monitor their box. I'm sure you do, but just to say it and to be clear, uh, one parent per child, sometimes two parents for more than one child, can be on set, or you should not use a nanny unless you absolutely have to, or someone that you trust. Make sure you get work permits. Make sure you check the production company out. Make sure you check the casting company out. Make sure you're not paying money to anybody other than a real school. I'm not going to name names, but one starts with a B and ends with an N.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And it's been around for a while.
Right. Right. Stay away.
Right. Because they are money making places where, oh, your dad's a garbage man. Oh, your dad's a lawyer. Oh, so that kid's picture goes in the lawyer pile. You're the garbage man. You'll get in there, but we'll talk to you later. You may not have enough money. So you got to watch out for those scams. You can always ask questions. You can also check with your local film commission is always a very good idea. And you can also send emails and phone calls to find information. Now, we're not going to be able to give you everything because we sign NDAs, non-disclosure agreements. We can't tell you about it. But if you do your research your name, Jeff, as an example, my name, you'll see that we're real and we've been doing this for a long time. Just be very cautious and figure out if that's what they want to do. And remember, when you're a parent, somebody has to take a day off work. The other kids still have to go to their swim meets, their soccer games. How are you going to manage all that? You're only going to make money for your kid. We're not going to pay parents to come. And that's going to, so it could cost you $300 to make $100, and the other two kids are going to be disappointed. So it's a lot to consider. And you have to get the work permit. And that may require going to the bank or the credit union and paying for that stamp. I forgot what it's called. What is it called when you get the stamp? You know what I'm talking about. The ladies that got to stamp the thing, you know.
You're talking about from the labor board. Yeah.
The notary. And
it's the same all over the country because they're kids. Yeah. It's the same. It's there's labor laws, and you should never do it without having that work permit. You should always do it. Make sure that you're doing it, and parents, make sure that you are doing your research, like Bill said, because there are a lot of scams out there. Make sure that you're doing it right, and there's work for kids. There's definitely work for kids.
There is, yeah.
You
just got to make sure you do it within the labor laws.
Yeah, make sure. And let's also talk about, while we're on this, let's talk about senior citizens, because so many senior citizens love to do this kind of work.
Oh yeah, yeah. People that are retired, semi-retired, or just have their own company and they can just be flexible with their schedules. The number one thing about doing our work is flexible schedules. So if you have a flexible schedule, you may not get picked for everything. But in Atlanta, we started a whole group of lawyers. They're all in their 40s and 50s. When they were 60 or 70, we could use them on occasion for the CEO or something. But like this particular show that I was working on, Drop Dead Diva, if they wanted, the producers were like, no, they need to look younger and they need to have blonde hair because it was California. So, we would get the senior citizen types, but there's all types of movies and shows that have a certain amount, because you get the senior citizens, they have a lot of time on their hands generally. And it's just a fun way to make a few extra bucks,
Yeah, no doubt. Well said. And, we talk about kids, we talk about seniors. Let's talk about, real like policemen and firemen for various shows, and real doctors. Why
casting?
Right. Yeah. Talk about that.
Yeah. So I've been asked just recently. I drove to Minnesota last month in January, February, and shot a commercial for Scout International, the old truck company. And the theme was friends, rivals, and it was about hockey. So what did I do? I set up appointments and talked to the people that ran the hockey rinks and the hockey ponds, because they actually play on ponds. And I went out there and I photographed everybody, videotaped everybody, and got those pictures back to the director, because he wants people that can skate. Well, who can skate? Anybody can say they can skate, but they got to be authentic. So hockey players was very specific. So we used real hockey players. Policemen. I did Chicago PD up in Chicago for 2 years. So I did that show. We had a bunch of technical advisors. We used real police that were retired or on their off day. And then, of course, when you use police officers, Jeff, as you know, we are not asking them to bring their uniform. We have to send them to a fitting because we don't have permission to use the city uniform. So we make a similar uniform, and that's how we get them to be police officers. Firefighters, surgeons. I did a TV series with James Woods called Coma. It was a remake of Coma. And I got real surgeons to show different people how to cut cut a body up, right?
Right.
I've done it in morgues. I've done saws. The guys, those are the surgeon's hands, not the actor. You just see the actor with the face mask, and the blood and the bone are coming up on his face. And then the real hand that's doing it, of course, it's not a real cadaver. It's a fake cadaver with a fake knife that slices through it. But, we do things like that. It's real important to find people that do the right thing, that know how to move like a cop, that know how to scale or grab a hose like a firefighter.
Right, right. No, it's so important. It's so important. Well, Bill, first of all, I mean, this is great because there's so much information. And I'm so proud of you. I really am in what you've been able to do. And, I'm
That's
so
so
happy
nice of
that
you to
we're,
say, man.
no, really, seriously. And I love your website. Is that where like people would go
Yeah,
to your website and everybody should do, would you give out I mean, it's Bill Marinella.
sure.
Go ahead.
Yeah, sure. It's BillMarinellaCasting.com. So it's my name, casting.com, BillMarinellaCasting.com.
Yes.
And it'll have different cities and states. And if you don't see your city and state, you could still create an account. And then we'll have a drop-down menu for the state, and that's where you add your profile. And for people that are maybe in Tennessee that want to come here to Kentucky to do some of the true crime, I'm doing a lot of true crime shows. If you decided that you wanted to work here, just make sure you can drive 3 hours back and forth because, we don't pay for hotels and things like that. Same thing with Atlanta.
Bill, spell your last name for everybody because the people
Sure.
listening.
Oh, yeah, sure. So, yeah, it's Bill, Marinella casting, Bill Marinella casting.com.
Cool. And you have a wonderful seminar that you teach. Do you do that in various cities? Because I got to tell you,
Yes.
I'm really impressed. And, if you check out one of Bill's seminars, no matter where you're listening from, if you're anywhere close, do it. Talk about it because you're really, really good. And obviously, thankfully I've seen it. And it's a great seminar. You teach so much information. It's nice and meet people from all over the place.
Yeah. So it's I call it the Listen, Think, Respond seminar. It's now more of a workshop than a seminar because you do work. We do it in person and on camera. Eventually I'll do like Zoom classes, but I've got to figure out how to formulate it. So it's in person on camera. And the one thing that I found out was when background actors and even actors, they come into an audition, they're excited, but they're so nervous. They've lost before they come through the door. Mm-hmm. They're defeated before they come through the door. So on camera, you'll see things. We practice what a slate is. We practice how to center your energy. And I tell them what happens and here's what we're doing. And don't worry about if we say cut rolling again. Maybe the light fell or the light wasn't right. It's not you, so don't get nervous. So I teach. And the one thing that I like to say is eye lines. Mm-hmm. What is an eye line? Yeah. So it's like if I'm talking to Jeff, I'm talking here. And then if I'm talking to see who comes into the room, I do this. And that's an eye line.
Right.
And then I'm still talking to Jeff like this. That's an eye line. So I give them an example. And then I say, well, what happened to the people that are up the stairs? I never saw anybody go like this to look at the next. So I have them create where are we in an auditorium or are we in a hallway? Or are we in a hospital? Where are your eye lines? If you're a nurse and a doctor, you're not staring at the patient. You're looking at the machines, which are right next. This is the patient. They're right here. And then you look at the patient and then you look at the machine. You're monitoring. So that's a real important feature. And then we talk about different opportunities, what extra work can do to get you into the business. Stand-ins is a great opportunity. You're getting paid to go to acting school. If you can do it, do it. It's such a good job. You sit there, you be quiet, you listen to the crew, the camera people, the director and producer see you every day through that lens before the actor gets there. You can't ask for a better acting school than that.
Yeah, so well said. I mean, it really, because you don't have to have a lot of money to go to an acting school. Just get sets. Should all actors learn how to do selfies if they want to move?
Yeah. Yeah. It's funny because people hold their camera phone out and I'll show you what they do. And you know this. They do this thing and they take a picture like this.
Right.
And it's like, well, instead of doing that, why don't you just turn the camera around and do it like this?
Right.
Right? Like you do it like this. And because you can't see yourself, you take more than you need until you find the one and you edit it and crop it and then send it to me. And then you're standing in the front of the bathroom mirror, which is the worst light possible. You get that glow on the top of your head, and then you got the eyebrows that are. See how the shadows are? Look at that. See that shadow? And you send in pictures where I can't see your face, or sunglasses and caps or ball caps or hats. Why? Or you send in a picture where it's you and a plant, and all I see behind you is a plant. Do a white background, do a neutral background, take more pictures than you need, and then actually look at what you're sending. Look, people, at what you're sending us. Look at it.
Yeah, 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 and always, take a little more time because you can.
Yeah.
Just make sure that you're doing it right, because when you send us something, it is the first impression. So just make sure that it's good. Speaking of hats, you're known for wearing hats. I'm surprised you don't have on right now. I have this hat for you, but Bill's got more hats, and if you go to his website, you'll see he has a little cartoon with your hat on. How many of those hats do you have? I mean, those are great. Those are fedoras, right?
Yeah, fedoras. Yeah, and let me see. I just got my new business cards here. Hang on, let me show you. So here is my my new business card.
Absolutely. You have got to have. I mean, I don't know how many of those hats you have, but every time I see you, you've got a different hat on.
Yeah. So I have the Andy Cap hat. I have the fedora. I have a bunch of different hats. That's kind of a thing, and so now that's part of my logo. Part of my logo is the hat. So this is my old card, which is still. I got the hat.
The hat.
Yeah, and the glasses. So everybody has to have a logo, and so that became kind of a cool thing that people recognized me for. I actually got recognized on airplanes a lot, flying in and out of Atlanta.
Yeah,
it was crazy. Yeah.
Well, you go all over the place. I mean,
Yeah, I've been up to Baltimore. I did dozens of projects in Baltimore. I did House of Cards up there for 5 years. Fly back, do Magic City, the 1950s show with Jeffrey Dean Morgan. I did that down in Miami, and then I was doing like a baseball show in Atlanta. So I mean, it was travel, and I said, but it kills you. You don't have relationships, you don't have friendships. It kills you. It drains you. That goes back to the
me, Bill. You always have me.
There you go, Jeff.
But so and talk about you're in Lexington, Kentucky right now, and you've actually joined forces to a certain degree with Lex Studios there.
Yeah, so Lex Studios, my friend Tim, who I worked with in California, is a producer, and I had found out that there's Larry.
Oh, okay, we're going to talk about Larry in a sec.
No, I just want to make sure he wasn't peeing on the plant.
Yeah, can you pick Larry up? Larry David.
Sure, yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're going to meet Larry David right now.
Hi, buddy. Come on.
Bill's sidekick.
Yeah, this is little or not so little Larry David. Hi,
Look
Larry.
at Larry. Oh my God.
Look at you.
Beautiful. Hey, Larry.
Hi,
hey, buddy.
Yeah.
Hey, you're a star. Look at that. How beautiful.
Put me down now.
Oh my God. Now that's a good selfie right there.
Look at the size of him. He's like a big potato sack.
Oh my God, he's huge.
He's like a grocery bag. He's like a little grocery bag. Yeah, so sorry, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, so I would do like 3 shows in 6 months driving back and forth, because that's what I had to do, follow the tax credits. So when you follow the tax credits, you don't really have much of a life. But this thing has given me a really good benefit, but it's also deleted some of my personal life. But I suppose that's like it is with everybody, with every job, right?
That's it. But I would say, especially with what we do, we both could talk about that. We're brothers from other mothers. But look, have you seen talented people lose opportunities because of their behavior?
Oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
Any stories that come to mind?
I've seen people do things like arguments that could have been prevented because they take things so personally. Mm-hmm. I've seen people, the costume lady on one project was Ozark. I was working on a season of Ozark, and we had a person come in with a knife belt,
Oh,
and she said, "Hey, sir, you can't have that in here." And I'm going to take this off. And she was putting on pants for him, getting pants. And he grabbed the knife and held onto it and frightened her. So his behavior was not appropriate. And of course, I would never think to say, hey, leave your knives at home. I
Yeah.
just assume. But after that happened, we put the no weapons. And even if you put no weapons, you have to put, no knives, no guns, no bullets. And so behavior, people taking things personally, people sleeping on the job,
Hmm.
people when there's 300 or 400 people for a big crowd scene, and you've got that group of 10 that sneaks off
Hiding
and
out.
has beer at Pizza Hut and then
Yeah.
comes back
Yeah.
drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happens. Oh, Pizza Hut's across the street from the stadium. Let's just go there, and then all of a sudden they don't come back from lunch, and they come back at the end, and they want to be signed out, and they smell like beer and alcohol, and they got
Right.
beer all over. So we've had those types of things.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
remember the days where,
behaviors.
when we're working on a big studio lot and people are going and they're hiding behind the facades.
Yeah,
They're like, and exactly like you said, they take off. You can't
yeah,
find them.
yeah,
And then they come back and they want their vouchers and they want to get signed
yeah.
out.
They want their pay.
Yeah, they want their
The
pay.
craziest thing was with the music videos I used to do. I used to do some rap videos. I did like Slim Shady and those types of videos. And then I did I think it was a Snoop Dogg video. And a lot of Snoop Dogg's friends are in his videos, and a lot of Snoop Dogg
Yeah,
buddies, and just that whole culture, the car culture with the hopping. What do they call those? Those cars that hop up and down.
yeah,
The name
yeah,
escapes me.
yeah,
But they all smelled like weed, and they were all just very chill. But it's insane though, the way that it just doesn't make sense, but it makes sense because that's what we're doing.
yeah,
But it's a very interesting what we do for a living, how it mirrors real life. And that's one thing that I do enjoy about it, is the different cultures and the different festivities and the different things that we get to find. Our job is to find the truth.
yeah,
If we can find the truth, we can create the magic for the producer. And that's what I enjoy doing by hiring authentic people to portray actors and different groups of individuals. But it's things are very sensitive, and they should be, because not everybody wants to hear what you have to say politically. Not everybody wants to hear what you have to say about Jesus or God or religion. And so those types of things, stay away from all that,
yeah,
you
yeah.
know,
No, well
especially when
said.
you're on set. Behaviors. Yeah.
Yeah, well said on that. What advice would you give people around the country or even around the world who want to get into this industry? Um, and obviously they don't have a clue, and maybe they're tuning in right now.
Well, I mean, I think that if you want to do something like this, sign up with casting companies, not agencies. So here's the thing, it's a pet peeve. We are casting directors. There is no such thing as a casting agent, except in the UK and in Europe. Casting directors don't take money from you. Casting agents in the UK, they take a percentage from you because that's how they get paid. If they get paid per head, as an example. But over here, we don't get paid. We get paid per heads on some shows, but we don't take the money from you. It's a plus 10 or a plus 20 or whatnot. So, but we're not agents. I don't represent you. You're representing me. When you go to work, you represent me. So your behavior is important. But sign up with agencies or sign up with companies like that. Check with your local film commission. Check with your local colleges, because you may not get paid to be in colleges films, but it'll be an experience, because a lot of these film students want to make their movies, and it could be really fun for you. And then when you get a job that actually pays you to be an extra or a stand-in or an actor, you get craft services, you get a trailer, you get to hang out, you get to try on wardrobe. So it's a lot of fun. And just know that with advances in technology today, you can make your own acting reel on your phone. This is a tool. It's a utensil. It's your whole studio is right here. You can edit in it. You can take more photos. You can filter things. And I don't recommend that actors use filters ever when you send stuff into us.
Yeah, yeah. No, yeah. No, that's a good point. We were talking about, and just a few more minutes left, but we were talking about Lex Studios.
Yeah.
You joined forces with them, and they're in Lexington.
So Lex Studios is here in Lexington. It's got 5 sound stages. It's about 56,000 square feet. So it's a smaller studio, but it is in fact a state-of-the-art studio. We do a lot of true crime here. And so Tim Sabo, my friend from California, I found out he was in Lexington. I called him up. I said, I want to come up. He said, okay, great. I don't have a job, but if you want to come make it happen. So he gave me space for free, and he let me have open call. So I did open calls within a 30-mile radius for days and weeks and months and over a year now. I built files. Then when the true crime shows came, we started putting on social media, and it all started happening for me here. But, the studio itself is located in Lexington, and because it's an actual working movie studio, when people come here, they get to see the other sets because it's not as jaded as Atlanta. Don't have to be so secure. If somebody wants to walk around, we'll guide them and say, yeah, this is the set. We have the courtroom. This is the morgue. And they always have a little bit of fun with the morgue. Everybody likes to take selfies in the morgue.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you have coming up?
Coming up, I met a producer today who is from Iowa. We were talking about Iowa. So before I came on here, I was talking with my friend Nick, who's
You're going to go back there, huh?
Yeah, I would like to, actually. Iowa was fun. So right now we're going to have more true crime. We're going to do verticals. And we're going to do some principal casting on a feature film before the end of summer. And so they're building sets right now, which is why I'm in this room here, which is our green room. And so, so that's what my next job is here. Hopefully I'll get some more commercials. I love the commercials. They're quick and easy. They're more creative and they pay good money.
Yeah. And what's your favorite part about doing this?
I think giving people opportunity and seeing the happiness and the joy and kind of bringing people together. And, your department and my department, people do appreciate us, but not as much as like the production designer or the cinematographer. Yeah. We don't get that notoriety. Yeah. But then every now and again, you'll get somebody who will shout out to you because he's like, wow, those extras look great, man. The suits and the ties and the faces. We have to paint the picture for them. They have an image, but we have to show them this is what, and listen, we're hand in hand with both wardrobe or costume departments, right?
Yeah.
And we're hand in hand with the hair department. So when all three of us get together, we make a beautiful show.
Yeah. No, that's
the happiness. I love putting things together and seeing how happy people are.
It's beyond. It's wonderful. Look, I could talk to you for hours. You watch because Bill and I are going to be doing something together. We've talked about it. We're not sure exactly how that looks just yet, but stay tuned. And
okay.
Bill, again, give out your website and any other social media so people can find you.
Sure. So Bill Marinella Casting Inc. on Instagram, Bill Marinella Casting Inc. on Instagram. You'll see a picture of Aretha Franklin on my Instagram. And then I'm on TikTok. I don't know the name of it. You have to look for Bill Marinella Casting, but I don't know what the web address is. And then my website is billmarinellacasting.com.
Great. And Bill, is there anything that I might have missed? I mean, we could talk for hours about the, about what we do, but is there anything I might have missed or anything else you want to mention right now while we have the audience still tuning in here?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that make movies with your friends with your iPhones and your Android phones. Make the movies. Doesn't matter if you're good or bad. Keep making them and keep rehearsing and keep creating. Keep creating because there's nothing that's stopping you. You don't have to buy a SIM card to put in your phone. You got plenty of storage. Start making movies. Start reading books. Go back to reading books on how to make movies. Or if you read online, that's fine. But it would be nice if you went to the library and looked up a book and opened it up instead of blinding your eyes with these freaking machines that we have. It's insanity. Yeah. That's what I would suggest that people do.
Yeah. Well, that's great advice, Bill. Thank you so much. Thank you for coming on. Yeah, we couldn't be happier to hear your voice because it's so important. I want to thank the sponsor, sourceandcast.com for background. Yeah, background. Go to it, check it out. It's another great platform. Thank you once again, Bill Marinella. Bill Marinella.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
And thank you to the audience. And
thanks, guys.
And take care of each other. Take care of yourself. We'll see you soon. And
all right,
we'll see you on the next one. Take care of yourself.
Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks for rolling with Olan.
Bye, Jeff. Go rolling with Olan.